Have you ever looked at someone who became incredibly wealthy and wondered what they know that you don't? Or maybe you've done everything people told you was financially smart. You worked hard, saved when you could, avoided unnecessary risks, yet somehow, building real wealth still feels frustratingly out of reach, especially in today's world of soaring inflation, terrifying housing markets, and a toxic social media hustle culture that constantly tells you you aren't doing enough. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Money isn't just about intelligence. It isn't earned only by the people with the highest IQ, the best education, or the most sophisticated investment strategies. Time and time again, history has shown that brilliant people make catastrophic financial decisions, while ordinary people quietly build extraordinary wealth. Why? Because financial success is rarely determined by what you know. It's determined by how you behave. Today, we decode The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Welcome to The Upgraded Mind. I am going to decode this book so deeply and perfectly that you will never need to read it or watch another summary ever again. At first glance, you might expect this book to be another guide about investing, budgeting, or picking winning stocks. But Morgan Housel takes a completely different approach. Instead of asking how money works, he asks a far more important question. Why do people behave the way they do with money? That single shift changes everything. Throughout this book, Housel argues that our financial decisions are shaped far less by spreadsheets or mathematical formulas than by our personal experiences, emotions, beliefs, fears, ambitions, and the unique circumstances that have defined our lives. Two intelligent people can look at the exact same investment, receive the exact same information, and still make completely different decisions. Not because one of them is irrational, but because each person carries a different life story. This is what makes The Psychology of Money so powerful. It doesn't promise a secret formula for getting rich overnight. Instead, it reveals the timeless behaviors that quietly separate people who build lasting wealth from those who repeatedly sabotage their own financial future. More importantly, these lessons extend far beyond money. They influence how we think about risk, success, patience, freedom, happiness, and the choices we make every single day. As you move through this masterclass, you'll begin to recognize patterns, not only in the stories Morgan Housel shares, but also in your own life. And once you see those patterns, you'll never look at money the same way again. Now, let's begin with Chapter 1, No One's Crazy. We are taught to treat money like a hard science. We believe it is just a subject of math, filled with formulas, interest rates, and data. We are told that if you just follow the math, you will get rich. And because we view it as math, whenever we see someone make a financial mistake, we immediately assume they lack intelligence or discipline. But Morgan Housel drops a quietly powerful truth right at the beginning of this journey. Money is not a hard science. It is a soft skill. It is deeply emotional. To understand this, you have to accept a fascinating psychological reality. Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.01% of what has actually happened in the world. But those same exact experiences make up roughly 80% of how you think the world works. Imagine two different people. The first person was born in a booming economy. During their 20s, every single time they put $1 into the stock market, it doubled. They were praised for taking risks. Their environment taught them that investing is safe and hoarding cash is foolish. Now imagine the second person. They grew up during a massive economic depression. They watched their parents lose their jobs, their home, and their dignity. They saw the stock market crash and wipe out entire lifetimes of savings in a single afternoon. For them, the world is a dangerous, fragile place. If you put these two people in a room today and ask them what to do with $10,000, you are not going to get an answer based on facts or data. You are going to get an answer based entirely on the specific year they were born. The person who grew up in the Depression isn't going to look at a spreadsheet and suddenly decide to risk their money. Their fear is baked deep into their nervous system. The person who grew up in the boom isn't going to play it safe because their brain has only ever been rewarded for taking massive leaps. When they argue with each other, they both think the other person is completely insane. But neither of them is crazy. They are just reading from completely different scripts. We do this every single day. We judge the person working a minimum wage job for buying a brand new iPhone on credit. We think, why wouldn't they just save that money? But we don't understand their reality. When you live in poverty, when you are constantly stressed, exhausted, and invisible to society, buying that phone might be the one single moment of status and joy you get to feel all year. It makes zero mathematical sense, but emotionally, psychologically, it makes perfect sense to them in that exact moment. Every single financial decision a human being makes is completely justified in their own mind at the time they make it. They are simply checking the boxes of the unique story they have lived. Once you deeply internalize this principle, something profound happens. You stop judging other people. More importantly, you stop violently fighting your own mind. You realize that your relationship with money isn't just about how smart you are. It is the heavy, invisible baggage of the neighborhood you grew up in, the fears your parents unknowingly passed down to you, and the specific economy you entered when you got your first job. The greatest investors and wealth builders in the world don't just study the stock market. They study their own biases. They recognize that their view of money is completely incomplete. They remain deliberately aware that what feels like absolute truth to them might just be a byproduct of their own narrow history. When you let go of the illusion that everyone should view money the exact same way you do, you unlock a massive sense of peace. You stop trying to win arguments, and you start trying to understand the psychology driving the choices. Let's run a quiet little audit on your own history today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to pinpoint one financial habit you have that completely confuses you. Maybe you hoard cash in a savings account even though you know you should invest it. Maybe you compulsively spend money on expensive clothes whenever you feel stressed at work. Tonight, sit quietly and ask yourself, what specific memory from my childhood or my early career built this rule in my head? Don't try to fix it right now. Don't judge yourself for it. Just gently unearth the story. The moment you pull that invisible belief out of the dark and recognize where it actually came from, you take away its power over you. You are no longer acting on autopilot. You are finally awake. Have you ever scrolled through social media, looked at a 25-year-old millionaire flaunting their success, and felt a crushing wave of inadequacy? You work just as hard. You are just as smart. So why are you stuck here while they are completely dominating life? We are programmed to believe that success is a direct mathematical result of hard work, and that failure is simply the byproduct of laziness. But behind this illusion hides an invisible, quietly powerful force that shapes our destinies far more than we ever want to admit. Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. Morgan Housel introduces two concepts that are actually identical twins: luck and risk. They are both absolute proof that every outcome in life is guided by forces completely outside of your individual control. Let's look at one of the most famous success stories in human history: Bill Gates. We all know the standard narrative. He is a genius. He worked tirelessly. He built an empire. But there is a hidden layer to his story that most people completely ignore. In 1968, Gates attended Lakeside School in Seattle. At that time, almost no high school in the entire world had a computer. It was impossibly rare, but Lakeside had the funding and the foresight to buy one. Gates had free access to a machine that even elite university students couldn't touch. The odds of a teenager being in a school with a computer back then were roughly 1 in a million. Gates himself admits, if there was no Lakeside, there would be no Microsoft. That is the quiet, undeniable power of luck. But now, we must look at the dark twin: risk. Bill Gates had a best friend at that school named Kent Evans. Kent was just as brilliant as Gates, perhaps even smarter. They coded together, dreamed together, and planned to conquer the future together as business partners. But before graduating, Kent died in a tragic mountaineering accident. The odds of dying on a mountain in high school were also roughly 1 in a million. Gates experienced a 1 in a million stroke of luck, while his best friend experienced a 1 in a million stroke of risk. Both were propelled by massive invisible forces completely out of their control. This is a deeply uncomfortable truth for our ego to accept. Our brain craves a clean, predictable narrative. When we succeed, we desperately want to believe it was 100% our own brilliance and hustle. But when we fail, we instantly blame the economy, our boss, or a bad break. We blame risk. And worse, when we look at others, We reverse the rule. If someone else fails, we judge them as lazy or foolish. If they succeed, we call them geniuses. We completely ignore the massive waves of luck and risk that push all of us around. When you obsess over extreme success stories, like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, or Warren Buffett, you are studying the absolute outliers. You are studying people who caught a massive generational wave of luck alongside their hard work. If you try to copy their exact habits, you might take the exact same risks they took, but miss the exact same luck they had and end up completely ruined. So how do we navigate a financial world controlled by these invisible twins? Housel gives us a profoundly peaceful and grounded philosophy. Be careful who you admire, and be careful who you look down upon. Stop focusing on extreme individuals and start focusing on broad, repeatable patterns. If you find a financial behavior that works for thousands of ordinary people, like saving a steady percentage of your income or living below your means, pay close attention. Those are patterns you can actually control. The more extreme the outcome, the more likely it was driven by luck or risk, and the less you can actually learn from it. Let's run a quiet mental shift today. For your micro-experiment, think of one person you deeply envy and one person you secretly look down upon financially. Now, inject luck and risk into their stories. Acknowledge that the successful person might have caught a quiet, invisible tailwind, and the struggling person might have been hit by an unforeseen storm. When you truly recognize the power of luck and risk, you forgive yourself for your past failures, and you step into your future with a profound, peaceful sense of humility. Have you ever hit a financial milestone that you once prayed for, only to look around a few months later and feel completely unsatisfied? You finally get the promotion, hit the salary target, or buy the dream car, yet somehow the finish line just keeps magically moving further away. We convince ourselves that if we just hustle a little harder and make a little more, we will finally feel secure. But modern psychology reveals a terrifying truth. Society has weaponized your ambition against you, trapping you in a continuous loop that is mathematically impossible to win. Chapter 3. Never enough to understand the deepest sickness of modern wealth. We have to look at the tragic story of Rajat Gupta. By every logical measure, Rajat Gupta had completely conquered the world. He was born into poverty in Kolkata, India, was orphaned as a teenager, yet fought his way to the absolute peak of global power. He became the CEO of McKinsey, one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the world. He sat on the board of directors for Goldman Sachs. His net worth was an estimated $100 million. With that kind of wealth, you can do anything. You can fund generations of your family, travel the world in private jets, and never spend a single second worrying about money again. But Rajat Gupta had a fatal psychological blind spot. He didn't just want to be wealthy, he wanted to belong to the billionaire club. Surrounded by elite hedge fund managers and tech tycoons, $100 million suddenly felt like pennies to him. His brain fell into the ultimate trap of social comparison. So, driven by a quiet, consuming greed, he stepped over the line. During the 2008 financial crisis, Gupta used his position on the Goldman Sachs board to pass illegal insider information to a hedge fund manager. He was caught. He went to federal prison. His reputation, his career, and his freedom were completely burned to ashes. Morgan Housel extracts a profoundly dramatic and life-changing lesson from this downfall. Rajat Gupta risked everything he had and desperately needed, for money he didn't have and absolutely didn't need. Why do highly intelligent people do this? Why do we constantly risk our peace of mind, our health, and our families just to get a little bit more? It happens because the human brain is hardwired for social comparison. The ceiling of your desires is entirely dictated by the people you compare yourself to. If you make $50,000 a year, you look at your friend making $100,000 and feel inadequate. If you make $100,000, you look at the person making $500,000. If you make $500,000, you look at the person making $10 million. It is an infinite ladder. No matter how high you climb, there is always someone standing on the rung directly above you, looking down. If you measure your financial success by comparing it to others, you are playing a game that cannot be won. The only way to win is to refuse to play the game in the first place. Let's look at a remarkably beautiful contrast to Gupta's story. The legendary authors Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller were once attending a massive, glamorous party hosted by a billionaire hedge fund manager. Vonnegut turned to Heller and pointed out that their wealthy host probably made more money in a single day than Heller had made in the entire history of his wildly successful novel, Catch-22. Joseph Heller smiled and calmly replied, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough. Enough. It is the most powerful, yet terrifying word in the world of finance. When you hear the word enough, your modern brain might violently resist it. You might think it means settling for less, lacking ambition, or giving up on your dreams. But that is a complete illusion. Having enough simply means realizing that the opposite, an insatiable appetite for more, will eventually push you to the point of regret. It is the wisdom to know when pushing for more will actually damage your life. It means recognizing that no amount of money is worth sacrificing your reputation, your freedom, your physical health, or the love of your family. The greatest financial superpower you can ever develop is the ability to stop the goalpost from moving. When you finally reach a goal, allow yourself to stand there, breathe, and actually enjoy the victory without immediately shifting your eyes to the next mountain. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to grab your phone or a piece of paper and write down your personal definition of enough for this exact phase of your life. Not your ultimate retirement dream, just right now. What is the exact amount of money, the exact lifestyle that covers your needs and brings you peace? Define the finish line. Because if you don't draw a line in the sand today, the world will keep moving it for you. Have you ever stared at a massively successful person and obsessively tried to decode their secret strategy? We study their morning routines, read the books they recommend, and try to copy their exact tactics, and yet we never see the same results. We assume they possess some hidden genius or a complex formula that we simply don't understand. But what if their ultimate superpower isn't a complex strategy at all? What if the greatest force behind their empire is something completely invisible to the human brain? Chapter 4, Confounding Compounding. Let's look at the absolute peak of investing. Warren Buffett. There are thousands of books written about how Buffett analyzes businesses, reads financial statements, and picks winning stocks. But almost all of these books completely miss the true psychological reality of his wealth. Yes, Warren Buffett is a brilliant investor, but his actual secret is time. Buffett didn't just start investing when he was an adult. He started when he was 10 years old. By the time he was 30, he had a net worth of $1 million. Now, let's run a quiet mental experiment. What if Warren Buffett was a normal person? What if he spent his 20s exploring the world, figuring out his life, and only started investing at age 30? And what if he retired at age 60 to play golf and relax, just like a normal person? If he earned the exact same brilliant annual returns, but only invested from age 30 to age 60, his net worth today would not be the staggering billions we see. It would be roughly $11.9 million. That is 99.9% less than his actual net worth. This is the mind-bending reality of compounding. More than $81 billion of Warren Buffett's wealth came after his 65th birthday. His superpower wasn't just finding great stocks. His superpower was surviving and staying in the game for over 3/4 of a century. Why is this so hard for us to grasp? Because the human brain is entirely linear. If I ask you to calculate 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, you can do it in seconds. But if I ask you to calculate 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, your brain completely shuts down. We are simply not hardwired to understand exponential growth. When things compound, the initial results are so incredibly small that we completely ignore them. We invest for 6 months, see a tiny return, and think, this is useless. I'm never going to get rich this way. So we pull our money out and look for a faster strategy. We interrupt the compounding process right before it actually starts to work its magic. Morgan Housel beautifully compares this to how ice ages form on Earth. Ice ages aren't caused by brutally freezing winters. They are caused by slightly cooler summers, a summer that isn't quite warm enough to melt the previous winter's snow. So, a tiny, almost invisible layer of ice remains. The next winter adds a bit more, and the next summer leaves a little more behind. It is a slow, deeply boring accumulation. But give it time, and that tiny leftover frost builds massive ice sheets that cover entire continents. You don't need massive returns to get rich. You don't need to find the next tech giant before anyone else. Chasing huge, dramatic returns often forces you to take massive risks that eventually wipe you out entirely. The most deliberate, intentional way to build a financial empire is to find a good, consistent return and simply refuse to interrupt it. You have to let the snow accumulate. Let's put this into practice today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to run a very simple, quiet math equation. Go online and open a basic compound interest calculator. Type in a monthly investment of just $50. Assume a standard 8% return. Look at the balance after 10 years. Now, change nothing else, but look at the balance after 30 years. Watch how the numbers suddenly explode. Feel the weight of that difference. Let that visualization rewire your brain. Your greatest financial asset isn't your intelligence, it is your patience. Have you ever watched someone build a massive business, make millions of dollars, and then completely lose it all just a few years later? We naturally assume that making the money is the hardest part of the journey. But what if the skills required to get to the top are the exact same skills that will eventually destroy you? Chapter 5. Getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. If you want to understand the deepest psychological trap of success, you have to understand that getting wealthy and staying wealthy are completely different games. They require two entirely opposite mindsets. Getting wealthy requires taking massive risks. It requires extreme optimism, pushing boundaries, and believing that you can beat the odds. But staying wealthy requires the exact opposite. Staying wealthy requires a deep, quiet humility. It requires a healthy dose of fear. It requires the profound realization that everything you have built could be wiped out in a single second. To see how brutal this reality can be, we must look at the legendary story of Jesse Livermore. In the early 1920s, Livermore was one of the greatest stock market traders in human history. He was a financial genius. When the catastrophic stock market crash of 1929 hit, wiping out the wealth of an entire generation and triggering the Great Depression, most investors were completely ruined. But not Jesse Livermore. He had anticipated the crash and shorted the market. While the rest of the world was losing everything, Livermore made a profit equivalent to roughly $3 billion in a single day. He returned home that evening as one of the richest men on the entire planet. He had conquered the game. But then, an invisible psychological shift occurred. Because of that massive success, Livermore started to believe he was completely invincible. The extreme risk-taking and supreme confidence that had made him wealthy began to rot his judgment. He kept making larger, more reckless bets. He thought the market would always bend to his will. Just 4 years later, he had lost every single penny. Livermore went bankrupt. He lost his fortune, his confidence, and eventually his life. He had mastered the art of getting wealthy, but he completely failed at the art of staying wealthy. We often assume that once we hit a certain financial number, we will be safe forever. But money is highly unforgiving. If you continue to apply the aggressive, risk-taking mindset that got you rich to the money you already have, you are playing a game of Russian roulette with your future. Morgan Housel drops a quietly powerful truth here. The single most important word in the entire world of finance is survival. It isn't about the highest returns. It isn't about the smartest investment strategy. It is about building a financial life that is completely unbreakable. It is about refusing to be wiped out, so that the magic of compounding can actually do its job over time. Remember Warren Buffett from our last chapter? His true superpower wasn't just finding great stocks. His superpower was that he never got wiped out. He never took a risk so massive that it could completely destroy his portfolio. He survived 14 different economic recessions. He survived a world war. He survived pandemics. He survived because he understood the duality of wealth. You have to be highly optimistic about the future, but fiercely paranoid about what could prevent you from getting to that future. You have to believe that things will work out in the long run, while simultaneously being terrified of the short-term obstacles that could take you out of the game. This is the exact mindset of the world's most enduring empires. They build a massive margin of safety. They hold on to cash even when it earns zero interest, simply because that cash is a shield against unpredictable storms. They don't try to maximize every single dollar, because they know that survival is far more valuable than a slight increase in returns. Let's run a quiet audit on your own financial defense today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to look at your current life and identify one area where you are playing too close to the edge. Maybe you are investing money you actually need for next month's rent. Maybe you don't have a single emergency fund. Today, take just one tiny step to build a wall of safety. Transfer a small amount of money into an account that you never touch. Build your shield. Because true financial freedom doesn't belong to the smartest person in the room. It belongs to the person who simply refuses to be wiped out. Have you ever poured your heart into 5 different projects, watched 4 of them completely fail, and felt like an absolute fraud? We are raised in a culture that demands perfection, making us believe that if we aren't constantly winning, we are doing something terribly wrong. But what if the most successful people on earth are actually wrong more often than they are right? What if losing isn't the opposite of success, but the mathematical foundation of it? Chapter 6. Tails, you win. When we look at massive corporate empires or billionaire investors, we only see their highlight reel. We see the products that change the world. We see the stocks that went to the moon. Because we only see the wins, we assume these people have a flawless success rate. We assume everything they touch turns to gold. But Morgan Housel introduces a concept here that completely shatters that illusion. It is a concept called long tails. In statistics, a long tail is the farthest end of a curve. It represents an extremely rare event, a massive outlier success. And the quiet reality of wealth is that long tails drive absolutely everything. To understand this deeply, let's look at the art world. Imagine an elite art dealer. They buy a massive collection of 100 obscure paintings. To the average person, it looks like a terrible financial move. 99 of those paintings will turn out to be completely worthless. The dealer will lose money on almost the entire collection. But one of those paintings, just one, turns out to be an undiscovered Picasso. That single Picasso doesn't just cover the losses of the other 99 paintings. It makes the dealer a multimillionaire. They were wrong 99% of the time, yet they won the entire game. This exact same math governs the world of venture capital. When a massive VC fund invests in 50 brand new tech startups, they already know the brutal truth. They know that 40 of those companies will go completely bankrupt. 8 of them might just break even, but 1 or 2 of them might become the next Amazon or Facebook. Those 1 or 2 massive tail events will generate 100% of the fund's returns. The investors are wrong almost all the time, yet they remain the wealthiest people in the room. Even Walt Disney, one of the greatest creative minds in history, operated on this exact principle. In the mid-1930s, Disney's studio produced over 400 short cartoons. Most of them lost money. The studio was struggling to survive, drowning in debt. It looked like a failing business. But then, Disney released Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. It was a monumental, unforeseen mega hit. It made $8 million in its first 6 months, which was an astronomical amount of money at the time. That one single movie paid off every single debt the studio had ever accumulated, funded their brand new massive studio, and secured Disney's legacy forever. Disney was kept alive by a single tail event. We forget this reality in our own lives. We buy a stock and panic when it drops, thinking we are terrible investors. We start a side hustle that fails, and we tell ourselves we aren't cut out for business. We beat ourselves up for not having a perfect track record. But this is where you must completely reprogram your perspective. You do not need to be right every time. You don't even need to be right half the time. You can be wrong exactly half of the time and still make an absolute fortune, as long as you survive long enough to catch that one massive tailwind. When you look at someone like Warren Buffett, you think he is a genius who picks winning stocks every single day. But even Buffett has admitted that over his entire lifetime, he has owned hundreds of different companies, and the vast majority of his staggering wealth comes from just a handful of exceptional winners. The greatest financial minds don't expect perfection. They expect failure. They build a system that allows them to take small, calculated losses over and over again. without getting wiped out. They know that if they just keep stepping up to the plate, eventually, they will hit a home run that changes their destiny forever. Once you accept the math of long tail, you stop fearing failure. You stop viewing a bad investment or a failed business as a reflection of your intelligence. You begin to see it as simply the necessary cost of finding your Picasso. Let's apply this quiet liberation to your own life today. For your micro-experiment, pull out a piece of paper and write down 3 professional or financial failures you have experienced. Next to them, write down your one absolute biggest win. Look at how that one single win has likely carried you further than those 3 failures held you back. Today, give yourself permission to be imperfect. Try one new, low-risk idea without the crushing weight of expecting it to be a masterpiece. Allow yourself to be wrong, because being wrong is just part of the process of becoming wealthy. Have you ever finally landed that high-paying dream job, only to wake up 6 months later feeling completely trapped? You make more money than ever before, but you barely have the time or energy to actually enjoy it. We are conditioned to believe that wealth is measured by the size of our house, the brand of our car, or the number in our bank account. But by chasing these visible trophies, we are entirely ignoring the heaviest psychological toll of modern success. If your money doesn't buy you control over your own life, it isn't actually wealth at all. Chapter 7. Freedom. Morgan Housel states a profound, undeniable truth about the human condition. The absolute highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every single morning and say, "I can do whatever I want today." This is the true intrinsic value of money. It is not about buying shiny objects. It is about buying your own time. If we look back at history, we are currently living in the most prosperous era of human civilization. We have larger homes, better medicine, and more advanced technology than our grandparents could have ever dreamed of. By every logical, mathematical measure, we should be the happiest generation to ever walk the earth. But we aren't. We are deeply anxious, constantly stressed, and chronically exhausted. Why? Because while we have gained material wealth, we have completely surrendered our time. In the 1950s, if you worked in a factory or a mine, your job was intensely physical. But the exact second the factory whistle blew at 5 p.m., you clocked out. The work was done. You couldn't bring the heavy machinery home with you. Your evening belonged entirely to you and your family. Today, most of us are knowledge workers. Our tools are our brains and our phones. And because our tools travel with us, the factory whistle never actually blows. Your phone buzzes with an urgent email at 9 p.m. You are thinking about tomorrow's presentation while playing with your kids. Your boss has direct access to you on weekends. We make more money, but we have lost total control over our schedules. To understand why this is so completely devastating to our mental health, we have to look at a concept in psychology known as reactance. Reactance is the hardwired human instinct that violently rejects feeling controlled. People simply hate being told what to do. The psychological reality is so powerful that doing something you absolutely love on a schedule you do not control feels exactly the same as doing something you completely hate. You might love your profession, but the moment someone dictates exactly when you must do it, how you must do it, and where you must sit while doing it, the joy evaporates. The work becomes a prison. This is exactly why chasing a massive salary at the expense of your freedom is a losing game. You are trading the single most critical ingredient of human happiness, control over your time, for a paycheck that will only buy you things you don't even have the time to enjoy. The quiet, deliberate purpose of money is to buy back your autonomy. When you have a small amount of savings, it gives you the freedom to take a few days off when you get sick, without panicking about how you will pay the bills. When you have a slightly larger financial cushion, it gives you the ultimate power to say no. You can say no to a toxic boss. You can say no to a job that demands a brutal 3-hour commute. You can quit and take your time finding a role that actually respects your life. And when you build true, enduring wealth, you unlock the ultimate level of the game. You can retire on your own terms. You can wake up on a Tuesday morning and decide to spend the entire day reading a book, walking in the park, or traveling with your family, simply because you want to. Unspent money is not a waste. unspent money is an invisible protective shield. Every single dollar you save is a tiny piece of your future that you own completely. Every dollar you needlessly spend on a luxury car or a massive house is a piece of your future that you are handing over to someone else. The world's most mindful and peaceful individuals understand this deeply. They don't use their money to impress strangers at a stoplight. They use their money to quietly purchase the one luxury that actually matters: freedom. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to run a quick, peaceful time audit on your desires. Think of one expensive luxury item you have been desperately wanting to buy. Now, instead of looking at the price tag in dollars, calculate its cost in time. How many grueling hours, days, or weeks of your life do you have to surrender to a job you might not love just to pay for that item? Ask yourself if trading that precious piece of your life is truly worth it. When you start measuring the cost of things in time rather than dollars, you suddenly realize that you already hold the power to reclaim your freedom. Have you ever pulled up to a red light, looked over at the person sitting in a roaring $200,000 sports car, and felt a quiet sting of envy? You imagine how incredible their life must be, and you secretly tell yourself that if you were behind that steering wheel, everyone would finally respect and admire you. We spend our entire lives chasing these shiny trophies, believing they are the ultimate key to human validation. But what if the very things we buy to make people notice us are exactly what makes them completely ignore us? Chapter 8. The Man in the Car Paradox. Morgan Housel shares a profoundly simple, yet completely mind-bending story from his youth. Before he became a financial writer, he worked as a valet at a luxury hotel in Los Angeles. Every single day, guests would pull up in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Rolls-Royces. Housel admits that he would stare at these cars with absolute awe. He dreamed of owning one because he assumed that anyone driving a car like that was universally respected and admired by everyone on the street. But then, a quiet, psychological realization hit him. Whenever a Ferrari pulled up, he never actually looked at the driver. He didn't care who was sitting in the driver's seat. He didn't admire them at all. He simply stared at the magnificent car and imagined himself sitting in the driver's seat. The driver, who likely spent a massive portion of their wealth to buy that car specifically to get noticed, was completely invisible. This is the man in the car paradox. It is one of the most powerful, silent illusions in the entire world of wealth. When you buy a massive mansion, a diamond-encrusted Rolex, or a luxury sports car, you do it because you deeply crave respect and admiration from others. You want to signal to the world that you have made it, that you are important and successful. But the brutal reality of human nature is that people don't actually care about you. When they look at your shiny possessions, they bypass you completely. They use your wealth as a mirror to reflect their own desires. They think, if I had that watch, people would think I am amazing. You think you are buying admiration, but you are actually just buying an object that makes other people admire themselves. We are chasing a ghost. We drain our bank accounts and mortgage our futures, desperately trying to buy a feeling that simply cannot be bought. Now, this doesn't mean you should never buy a nice car or enjoy beautiful things. If you genuinely love the engineering of a sports car or the detailed craftsmanship of a fine watch, buy it for yourself. But the exact moment you buy it to alter how other people view you, you have fallen directly into the trap. You are burning your hard-earned freedom for an audience that isn't even watching you. Housel leaves us with a deeply peaceful, grounding truth. If your ultimate goal is to gain respect and admiration, do not seek it through horsepower or designer labels. True respect is never purchased at a luxury dealership. It is earned, quietly and deliberately, through humility, kindness, and empathy. People will remember how you made them feel, long after they have forgotten what kind of car you drove. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to pay close attention the next time you see someone driving an incredibly expensive car or wearing a flashy designer outfit. Notice your own internal reaction. Are you actually admiring the person, wondering about their character and deeply respecting them? Or are you just imagining yourself holding that exact same item? Once you realize that you don't care about the man in the car, you will finally grant yourself the profound freedom to stop trying to be him. Have you ever scrolled through social media, looked at a high school friend standing in front of a massive new house or a luxury vacation resort, and felt a sudden wave of panic that you are falling completely behind in life? We are visually wired creatures, and we naturally judge how successful someone is by the things we can actually see. But what if the very things society uses to measure financial success are actually the exact opposite of true wealth? Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. Morgan Housel exposes one of the greatest optical illusions in the modern financial world: the complete difference between being rich and being wealthy. We use these two words interchangeably, but they are entirely different concepts. Being rich is highly visible. It is your current income. If someone drives a $100,000 car, they are rich, because even if they bought it on debt, they need a certain level of income to afford the monthly payment. Rich is the designer clothes, the first-class flights, and the massive houses. It is everything that screams for your attention. But wealth is completely invisible. Wealth is the money that has not been spent. Wealth is the sports car not purchased, the luxury watch not bought, and the first-class upgrade declined. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into physical stuff. This is an incredibly difficult concept for the human brain to grasp. Since childhood, our fundamental understanding of success is based entirely on imitation. If you want to learn how to play tennis, you watch an elite tennis player and copy their form. But you cannot do this with wealth, because you simply cannot see it. You cannot see someone's bank account, their brokerage portfolio, or their paid-off mortgage. Because wealth is invisible, it is incredibly hard to imitate. And so we default to imitating rich instead. We buy the visible symbols of success, mistakenly believing that spending money is the exact same thing as having money. Housel highlights a brutally honest reality using the story of a famous pop star who nearly went bankrupt and sued her financial advisor. That pop star was Rihanna in 2009. Today, she is a billionaire, but back then she had completely blown through tens of millions of dollars in a matter of months. When she sued, her advisor's defense in court became legendary. The advisor's response was profoundly simple. Was it really necessary to tell her that if you spend money on things, you will end up with the things and not the money? We laugh at that, but we all fall victim to this exact same psychology. We see someone driving a Ferrari and assume they are wealthy, when the only objective mathematical truth we know about them is that they now have $100,000 less in the bank than they did yesterday. The world is filled with people who look modestly successful but are secretly wealthy, and people who look incredibly wealthy but are quietly drowning in massive debt. True wealth is not about visible consumption. It is about invisible options. It is the freedom to change careers, the ability to retire early, and the peace of mind knowing you are safe if a crisis hits. You can only build wealth by actively suppressing your urge to buy visible status symbols today, in exchange for invisible freedom tomorrow. Let's run a quiet psychological audit today. For your micro-experiment, pick one area of your life where you feel the intense pressure to spend money just to keep up appearances, whether it's the brand of clothes you wear or the restaurants you visit. Today, intentionally choose the invisible option. Choose not to upgrade. Feel that tiny bit of unspent money sitting quietly in your account, and recognize that this invisible restraint is the exact moment you transition from merely trying to look rich to actually becoming wealthy. Have you ever tried to build a solid savings account, only to find yourself completely draining it a few months later because you couldn't figure out exactly what you were saving for? We are heavily conditioned to believe that we need a massive, specific goal to justify keeping our money, like a new house, a luxury vacation, or a strict retirement plan. But what if tying your money to a predictable goal is the exact reason you constantly feel so financially vulnerable? Chapter 10. Save Money. Morgan Housel reveals a quietly profound truth about financial independence. Building wealth has almost nothing to do with your income or your investment returns, and absolutely everything to do with your savings rate. We obsessively grind for higher salaries and hunt for the perfect stock, But those variables are heavily dictated by the unpredictable chaos of the global economy. Your savings rate is the one single variable in the entire financial equation that you have 100% control over. Housel explains that wealth is just the accumulated leftovers after you spend what you take in. More importantly, he exposes that saving money is simply the gap between your ego and your income. When you aggressively strip away the need to impress strangers and buy visible status symbols, you instantly unlock the massive power to save. But the most life-changing psychological shift in this chapter is this: you do not need a specific reason to save. Saving for a car or a down payment is predictable saving for a predictable world. But our reality is fundamentally unpredictable. You must save specifically for a world where sudden job loss, unexpected medical emergencies, and complete economic crashes are absolutely normal. Saving money without a specific goal is the ultimate hedge against life's inevitable, terrifying surprises. It grants you the unshakable flexibility to wait for the right opportunity, the time to think, and the freedom to pivot when the world suddenly changes its rules. Unpurposed savings act as an invisible, massive shock absorber for your entire existence. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, open your banking app today and set up an automatic weekly transfer for a ridiculously small amount, even just $10, into a completely separate account. Do not label it as a vacation fund or a car fund. Label it simply as your invisible shield. When you start saving money purely for the sake of gaining control over your time, you stop playing a desperate game of defense against your expenses, and you finally begin forging an unbreakable fortress around your ultimate freedom. Have you ever built a mathematically perfect financial plan? A flawless spreadsheet that calculates every single penny, only to abandon it completely the moment life gets stressful? We are taught to view our money like a cold, calculating machine, constantly striving for maximum mathematical efficiency. But what if aiming for perfect rationality is the exact reason your financial plans keep falling apart? Chapter 11. Reasonable, Rational. Morgan Housel reveals a deeply human truth that completely shatters traditional financial advice. You are not a spreadsheet. You are an emotional, complex human being. When we try to be coldly rational, like maximizing investment returns by keeping a heavy mortgage because the interest rate is low, we completely ignore the heavy psychological toll of those decisions. A perfectly rational investor would never pay off a 3% mortgage when they can earn 8% in the stock market. But a reasonable person pays off that mortgage simply because the absolute peace of mind of owning their home, free and clear, allows them to sleep soundly at night. Housel argues that a reasonable financial strategy you can actually stick with during a terrifying market crash is infinitely more powerful than a mathematically perfect strategy you abandon the exact second you feel panic. The true goal of managing your money isn't to become a brilliant financial robot. It is to find a system that minimizes your daily regrets and maximizes your peace of mind. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, look at one financial habit you have that doesn't make perfect mathematical sense, like holding on to extra cash in a low-interest savings account instead of aggressively investing it. Ask yourself, does this mathematical inefficiency actually give me emotional peace? If the answer is yes, give yourself permission to be reasonable today and recognize that sleeping well at night is the absolute highest return on investment you will ever earn. Have you ever meticulously planned out your entire year, predicting your income, your expenses, and your exact path to success, only for a completely unexpected crisis to blow it all up in a single afternoon? We constantly look at what happened yesterday to figure out what will happen tomorrow. But what if relying on your past experiences is the exact reason you keep getting blindsided by the future? We treat the history of the economy and the stock market like a flawless crystal ball. We assume that if we just study enough data, read enough charts, and memorize the patterns of past crashes, we can perfectly predict the next one. But Morgan Housel shatters this illusion with a deeply unsettling reality. History doesn't map out the future. It only maps out our capacity to be completely shocked. Chapter 12. Surprise! Stanford professor Scott Sagan coined a brilliant, quietly terrifying phrase. He said, "Things that have never happened before happen all the time." When we try to manage our money, we look at the absolute worst things that have happened in the past. We look at the Great Depression, the 2008 housing crash, or a recent massive inflation spike. We then build a psychological and financial wall around ourselves to protect us from those exact events ever hurting us again. But this is a massive psychological trap. In behavioral finance, this is called the historians as prophets fallacy. Let's look at the absolute biggest events that have shaped the modern global economy. World War II, the dot-com collapse, the September 11th attacks, the sudden 2020 global pandemic. What do every single one of these monumental events have in common? None of them had a historical precedent. They were complete anomalies. There was absolutely no data on a spreadsheet that could have predicted them. The events that move the needle the most, the ones that wipe out millions of jobs or create billionaires overnight, are always the surprises. They are the outliers. They are the things no one was talking about the day before they happened. Yet, traditional financial advisors and everyday investors constantly look at historical averages. They say, the market has never dropped this fast before, so it won't happen now. Or, housing prices have never behaved this way in the past 50 years. But assuming that the future will perfectly mimic the past is a fatal flaw. A limit that hasn't been broken in the past is just a limit waiting for a new, unprecedented force to completely shatter it. The world fundamentally changes. Technology evolves. Human behavior mutates. When you rely entirely on past data to dictate your future investments, you are essentially driving a car at 100 miles an hour while staring exclusively into the rearview mirror. Eventually, you are going to crash into something you never saw coming. So, how do you build a financial empire in a world that is fundamentally unpredictable? You must stop planning purely for the disasters you can imagine and start building a shield for the disasters you cannot even comprehend. You must build a massive margin of safety. The true purpose of holding on to cash or diversifying your investments isn't just to survive the next recession. It is to survive the terrifying, invisible black swan event that no economist on Earth has even thought of yet. You have to accept that the future will always hold a completely new script. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to run a quiet stress test on your own financial shield. Look at your emergency fund or your current savings. You probably built it based on a past emergency, like a car breaking down or a temporary job loss. Now, imagine an event so bizarre, so completely unpredictable, that it forces you to pause your life for 3 entire months. Does your current safety net still protect you? Today, detach your financial anxiety from the disasters of the past and give yourself the quiet, profound freedom to prepare for the ultimate, inevitable surprise. Have you ever meticulously calculated your budget down to the exact dollar, pushing your bank account to the absolute limit because you were absolutely certain everything would go exactly according to plan? And then, a single, unexpected emergency strikes, a broken down car, a sudden medical bill, or a lost job, and your entire financial life instantly collapses into chaos. In the United States, a single unexpected trip to the emergency room can cost thousands of dollars, even with good health insurance. If your financial plan requires perfect health and a flawless economy to survive, you don't actually have a plan. You have a wish. We are taught to optimize every single penny, to never leave cash sitting idle, and to maximize our efficiency at all costs. But what if this obsession with perfect efficiency is exactly what makes you so incredibly fragile? Chapter 13, Room for Error. Morgan Housel introduces a quiet, ancient wisdom that the most enduring empires and the greatest investors on Earth rely on: the margin of safety. To understand this deep psychological principle, look at professional blackjack players who count cards. They have completely mastered the math. They know exactly when the odds are in their favor. But even when they know they have the mathematical edge, they never bet all their chips on a single hand. Why? Because they know that having an edge doesn't mean a guarantee. They know they could still hit a terrible streak of bad luck. And if they bet everything and lose, they are completely wiped out and removed from the game. They build in a massive room for error. But in our everyday lives, we completely ignore this. We forecast our retirement, our business profits, and our investments assuming a perfect, unbroken timeline of success. We assume the market will always yield average returns. We assume we will never burn out. And we assume our expenses will never unexpectedly spike. But the reality of human existence is fundamentally messy. Room for error is not about being a pessimist. It is a quiet, deliberate acknowledgement that you cannot predict the future, and you must build a financial bridge wide enough to let a few things go wrong without destroying your entire journey. It is the gap between what you predict will happen and what you can actually survive if it doesn't. If your financial plan only works when everything goes perfectly, you don't have a plan. You have a ticking time bomb. The only way to harness the massive power of compounding is to survive long enough for the math to actually work. The more room for error you weave into your life, the more risks you can comfortably take without the constant, suffocating fear of total ruin. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to run a brutal, honest audit on your own fragility. Look at your current lifestyle and ask yourself, if my primary source of income completely vanished tomorrow morning, exactly how many weeks could I survive without going into debt? If that number terrifies you, your only mission starting today is to deliberately widen that gap. Hold on to a little extra cash. Build a buffer that seems almost unreasonable. Give yourself the profound, quiet freedom of a safety net. Because true wealth is simply the ability to withstand the storms that wipe everyone else out. Have you ever spent years studying for a specific degree or grinding for a dream career, only to wake up a decade later and realize you absolutely hate it? We are conditioned to pick a path at 18 and fiercely stick to it for the rest of our lives. But what if the greatest threat to your future wealth is the person you are right now? We build massive, rigid financial plans for our retirement. We assume we know exactly what we will want in 20 years. But modern psychology reveals a quiet, devastating flaw in this strategy. Chapter 14. You'll Change, Morgan Housel, exposes a deeply uncomfortable psychological truth. Long-term financial planning is incredibly difficult because human beings are terrible at predicting their future desires. In psychology, this is known as the end of history illusion. We all look back at who we were 10 years ago and cringe at our old opinions, our old habits, and our old financial choices. We easily recognize that we have changed massively in the past. But when we look into the future, our brain completely breaks down. We assume that the person we are today is the final, finished version of ourselves. We think our current goals will be our forever goals. So we make absolute, rigid financial commitments. We take out massive student loans for a career we think we will love forever. We lock ourselves into a massive 30-year mortgage, assuming we will never want to move. And when we eventually wake up a decade later as a completely different person with brand new desires, we feel suffocated. We become prisoners of the sunk cost fallacy. We refuse to abandon a miserable career or a broken financial plan simply because we have already invested so much time and money into it. We let a past version of ourselves, a version that doesn't even exist anymore, dictate our current reality. Housel gives us a profoundly liberating rule to combat this. Avoid extreme financial commitments. Do not build a financial plan that requires you to work a grueling job for 30 years without a single break. The ultimate financial superpower isn't predicting the future. It is building flexibility into your present. It is the ability to adapt when the world changes and when you change with it. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, look at one major long-term goal you are currently sacrificing for. Ask yourself with brutal honesty, is this what you actually want today? Or are you just fulfilling a promise you made to yourself 5 years ago? Today, give yourself the quiet, profound permission to change your mind. Stop letting a ghost from your past dictate the wealth of your future. Have you ever watched your investments drop or your business hit a massive slump and felt a sickening knot in your stomach, completely convinced you made a terrible mistake? We all want the reward. We want the compounding wealth and the ultimate freedom. But the exact moment the journey gets terrifying, we desperately try to run away. What if that terror isn't a sign that you did something wrong? Chapter 15. Nothing's free. Morgan Housel exposes a deeply fundamental rule of the universe. Everything has a price, but not all prices appear on labels. If you want to buy a brand new car, the price is obvious. You write a check for $30,000. But if you want to build long-term wealth, the price is completely invisible. The cost of compounding wealth isn't measured in dollars. It is measured in volatility, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and regret. This is where the human brain completely misinterprets the game. When you get a speeding ticket, it is a fine, it is a punishment. It tells your brain that you broke the rules, you made a mistake, and you should never do it again. But when you buy a ticket to enter a theme park, it is a fee. It is simply the cost of admission you gladly pay to experience something wonderful. When the stock market crashes and your portfolio bleeds, your primitive brain instantly registers it as a fine. You think, I made a mistake. I am being punished. So, you panic and sell everything, desperately trying to dodge future fines. You try to outsmart the system and get the massive returns for free. But market volatility is not a fine. It is a fee. It is the exact price of admission you must pay to unlock financial freedom. If you view uncertainty as a fine, you will spend your entire life trying to outsmart it. You will jump in and out of investments, trying to avoid the pain. And eventually, the market will completely destroy you. You cannot steal the returns without paying the emotional toll. But the exact second you reframe that fear as a fee, everything changes. You stop panicking when the market drops. You accept the turbulence exactly like you accept the price of a movie ticket. You realize that the wealth wasn't stolen from you. You are simply paying the bill for future compounding. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to look at one area of your life right now where you are experiencing financial friction, stress, or a temporary loss. Instead of agonizing over what you did wrong, say out loud, "This is not a fine. This is simply the fee I am paying for my future." Change the label in your mind and watch the fear completely evaporate. Have you ever watched a friend make a massive profit on a trending stock or a new cryptocurrency and felt a crushing pressure to immediately copy their exact move? We assume that because someone else is winning, their strategy must be the perfect formula for our own lives. But what if blindly copying someone else's financial success is the absolute fastest way to completely destroy your own? Chapter 16. You and Me, Morgan Housel, reveals a deeply dangerous psychological trap that ruins millions of investors. Playing a game you don't even realize you are playing. Imagine two people looking at the exact same stock. The first person is a day trader. They are looking to ride momentum for a few hours to make a quick profit. The second person is a young parent, saving slowly for a retirement that is 30 years away. The day trader buys the stock because the short-term momentum is incredibly hot. The young parent sees the day trader making money and thinks, I should buy that too. The parent doesn't realize they are taking financial cues from someone playing an entirely different game. When the stock naturally dips the next day, the day trader sells and takes a tiny, calculated loss. But the parent, who was supposed to hold for 30 years, panics, sells at the bottom, and loses their hard-earned savings. Think about the massive GameStop and crypto crazes of 2021. Millions of normal people dumped their life savings into meme stocks because they saw Reddit day traders and hedge funds making billions. But those groups were playing a high-speed game of hot potato. The average person was playing with their long-term retirement money. When the crash came, the people playing the wrong game were completely wiped out. The stock market is not a single game with a single set of rules. It is a massive arena where millions of people are playing completely different games with different timelines, different goals, and completely different risk tolerances. When you take financial advice from a headline, a viral social media post, or even a well-meaning friend, you are completely ignoring the most critical question in finance. You have to ask, what game are they playing? And does it match mine? A strategy that is absolutely brilliant for a billionaire hedge fund manager could be financial suicide for a regular person saving for their first house. The greatest wealth builders never allow themselves to be seduced by the actions of people playing a different game. They ruthlessly define their own rules, their own timeline, and their own ultimate goals. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, pull out a piece of paper today and write down exactly what financial game you are currently playing in this season of your life. Are you trying to build an emergency fund for next year? Or are you trying to build a bulletproof retirement for 3 decades from now? The exact second you clearly define your own game, the desperate urge to copy everyone else's highlight reel will completely vanish. Have you ever noticed that when someone predicts a massive economic collapse, everyone immediately stops what they are doing and listens in terrified awe? But when someone quietly predicts that the market will slowly grow and things will ultimately get better, we brush them off as completely naive. We are biologically conditioned to believe that panic is a sign of deep intelligence, and that hope is just a sign of delusion. But what if our absolute obsession with doom is exactly what is blinding us to the greatest wealth-building force in human history? Chapter 17, The Seduction of Pessimism. Morgan Housel exposes a deeply hardwired psychological flaw that holds millions of people back from building true wealth. Pessimism simply sounds profoundly smarter than optimism. If you tell a friend that a certain stock is going to double over the next 10 years, they will likely roll their eyes and ignore you. But if you tell that exact same friend that the market is a massive, fragile bubble that is about to burst and completely wipe out their life savings, they will instantly pull up a chair and beg you for advice. Why do we do this? Why are we completely seduced by the worst-case scenario? It comes down to the brutal reality of how progress and destruction actually work. In the financial world, progress happens incredibly slowly. It compounds over decades, quietly and completely unnoticed. But destruction happens overnight. A stock market portfolio can take 10 grueling years to grow 100%, but it can lose all of that value in a single terrifying afternoon. Because setbacks are incredibly sudden and violent, our primitive brains are biologically wired to pay absolute attention to them. We treat pessimists like brilliant prophets because they are warning us of the sudden drops. They capture our undivided attention. But here is the quiet, life-changing truth that the greatest investors on earth deeply understand. While the pessimists always sound smart, the optimists are the ones who actually get incredibly wealthy. True financial optimism isn't about believing that everything will be perfect. It is not blind faith. It is the quiet, unbreakable belief that despite the inevitable crashes, recessions, and global panics, the long-term trajectory of human innovation and the markets is always moving upward. The most successful wealth builders don't ignore the terrifying headlines. They simply refuse to let those headlines derail their massive long-term timeline. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to run a brutal, honest audit on the financial content you consume every single day. Look at your social media feed, your favorite news channel, or the people you take advice from. Are they selling you quiet, long-term optimism, or are they deeply monetizing your daily panic? Today, give yourself the profound freedom to mute the voices of constant doom. Recognize that while pessimism might sound like a brilliant protective strategy, it is quiet, enduring optimism that actually funds your ultimate freedom. Have you ever watched an incredibly intelligent person fall for a completely obvious financial scam and wondered how they could be so foolish? Or perhaps you've seen thousands of people throw their life savings into a massive financial bubble, completely ignoring all the mathematical warning signs that it was about to violently burst? We like to think that human beings are rational creatures driven by hard facts and data, but when the stakes are high and our emotions are running wild, the truth is entirely different. Chapter 18, When You'll Believe Anything. Morgan Housel reveals a deeply terrifying vulnerability in the human mind. The more you desperately want something to be true, the more likely you are to believe a completely fabricated story that overestimates the odds of it actually happening. In psychology, this is the ultimate collision of wishful thinking and desperation. Imagine a person who has just been told they have a terminal illness and only 6 months to live. If a doctor suddenly offers them a highly experimental pill and says there is only a 0.1% chance it will cure them, that person will absolutely take the pill. They won't calculate the mathematical odds. The sheer desperation of their situation turns that 0.1% into a beacon of absolute certainty. Now, apply this exact same psychological flaw to our money. When someone is buried in massive debt or exhausted from working a grinding, miserable job, they are fundamentally desperate for an escape. So when a charismatic guru online promises them a secret trading strategy that will make them a millionaire in 30 days, they don't look at the math. They don't look at the catastrophic failure rate. They blindly buy into the strategy because they desperately need the story to be true. But this doesn't just happen to desperate people. It happens to the wealthiest investors on earth. We don't invest in spreadsheets. We invest in stories. If a startup founder pitches a deeply boring, mathematically sound business, they get ignored. But if they pitch a massive, world-changing vision of the future, investors throw billions of dollars at them, even if the company has zero actual revenue. We are deeply seduced by narratives. We want to believe that there is a secret shortcut, a hidden formula, or a magical investment that will finally solve all of our problems. This is the ultimate danger of the financial world. When you combine a highly compelling story with a deep, emotional desire for success, your brain completely shuts off its critical thinking. You will ignore massive red flags. You will justify terrifying risks. You will believe absolutely anything. To protect your wealth, you must constantly remind yourself that the most comforting stories are usually the most dangerous ones. Let's ground this into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, I want you to run a quiet, uncomfortable audit on your own financial hopes. Think of one specific investment, side hustle, or financial strategy you are currently pursuing because you believe it will give you a massive, rapid return. Now, ask yourself with brutal honesty, do I believe in this because the undeniable math proves it will work? Or do I believe in this simply because I desperately need it to work? The exact second you separate your financial strategy from your emotional desperation, you instantly protect yourself from becoming a victim of your own mind. Have you ever absorbed an incredible amount of life-changing advice, only to walk away feeling completely paralyzed, not knowing exactly where to begin? We constantly consume complex financial theories, desperately searching for the one ultimate secret. But what if true financial mastery isn't about memorizing 100 different rules, but simply internalizing a few quiet, unshakable truths? Chapter 19, All Together Now. Morgan Housel doesn't leave us stranded in a sea of disconnected concepts. In this chapter, he pulls every single psychological thread we have explored and weaves them into a single, cohesive philosophy. If you strip away all the complex jargon, the economic charts, and the endless noise of the market, the psychology of money comes down to a few profound, actionable realities. Go out of your way to find humility when things are going perfectly, and grant yourself profound forgiveness when they completely fall apart. Respect the massive, invisible forces of luck and risk that push all of us around. Stop trying to be a cold, calculating financial robot and start managing your money in a way that simply helps you sleep peacefully at night. Increase your time horizon. The most powerful force in finance is compounding, and compounding only works if you build a margin of safety massive enough to ensure you are never wiped out. Save your money fiercely, even if you don't have a specific reason to save, because the ultimate dividend of every dollar you keep is complete control over your own time. True wealth isn't the flashy car or the massive house. True wealth is invisible. It is the freedom to wake up every single morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. And above all, remember that no one is crazy. Every single person you meet is simply reading from a completely different historical script, playing a completely different financial game. The exact second you stop judging others and stop trying to copy their highlight reel, you unlock a massive sense of peace. Let's ground this entire journey into your reality today. For your micro-experiment, take a step back from the spreadsheets and the endless financial advice. Pull out a piece of paper and write down your own personal philosophy of money in just 3 simple sentences. Define what wealth actually means to you and what game you are fundamentally choosing to play. When you build your financial life on a foundation of your own deeply held values, you completely insulate yourself from the noise of the world. You are finally awake and you are finally free. Have you ever read a book by a financial expert and wondered, what do they actually do with their own money behind closed doors? We assume the people who write the books and study the markets must have incredibly complex, highly sophisticated portfolios designed to squeeze out every single penny of profit. But what if the ultimate financial expert plays the simplest game of all? Chapter 20, Confessions. In the final chapter of this journey, Morgan Housel strips away the theory and completely opens his own financial playbook. And what he reveals is shockingly simple. He doesn't day trade. He doesn't chase the hottest tech stocks. He doesn't try to outsmart the market. Instead, he and his wife maintain an extremely high savings rate and invest almost everything into completely boring, low-cost index funds. But his most profound confession is a massive mathematical mistake that he made completely on purpose. He paid off his house in cash. Any traditional financial advisor would tell you this is a terrible idea, that you should keep a low-interest mortgage and invest that extra cash in the stock market to earn a much higher return. Housel knows the math perfectly well, but he completely ignores it. Why? Because he isn't trying to maximize his returns. He is trying to maximize his peace of mind. Every single financial decision he makes is run through one simple, unbreakable filter. Will this help me sleep soundly at night? Housel admits that his ultimate goal isn't to be the richest person in the graveyard. His ultimate goal is pure independence. He wants the quiet freedom to wake up, write what he wants, spend uninterrupted time with his kids, and never lose a single second of sleep over a sudden market crash. He gladly embraces being mathematically inefficient if it means he is emotionally unbreakable. Let's ground this final lesson into your reality today. For your last micro-experiment, look at your entire financial life and ask yourself one final, brutally honest question. Am I managing my money to maximize my spreadsheet, or am I managing my money to maximize my sleep? Today, give yourself the profound, lifelong permission to make choices that grant you absolute peace, because a mind completely free of financial anxiety is the absolute greatest wealth you will ever possess. Have you ever wondered why our modern generation feels so completely overwhelmed by money, even though we live in one of the wealthiest periods in human history? We constantly feel like we are falling behind, like the ultimate dream is constantly slipping through our fingers. But what if our financial anxiety isn't actually a math problem, but a massive collective historical hangover? Postscript, a brief history of why the U.S. consumer thinks the way they do. In this final bonus section, Morgan Housel explains the deep, invisible roots of our modern financial stress. After World War II, the United States experienced an unprecedented economic boom where the wealth gap completely collapsed. For a brief, magical window in the 1950s, almost everyone grew wealthy together, creating a massive, unified middle class where the standard of living was roughly the same for everyone. This era hardwired a profound psychological expectation into our culture, the belief that a comfortable, prosperous life was completely normal and mathematically guaranteed for every generation. But starting in the 1970s and 1980s, the economy fundamentally fractured. The wealth gap exploded and the middle class stagnated. The financial reality changed completely, but our post-war expectations absolutely did not. We still desperately expected to buy the massive house, take the luxury vacations, and own the brand new cars, even though our modern wages could no longer support it. So, how did an entire society bridge the massive gap between stagnant incomes and sky-high expectations? Debt. We entirely normalized credit cards, massive student loans, and crushing mortgages just to desperately maintain the illusion of the 1950s dream. We are playing a modern financial game using a psychological playbook written for an economy that simply no longer exists. The reason we feel so much pressure to consume is because we are judging our current reality against a historical anomaly. Let's ground this into your reality for one final micro-experiment. I want you to look at the financial expectations you currently hold for your own life. Are those expectations actually based on your own authentic desires? Or are they inherited from a culture deeply addicted to debt just to keep up appearances? The exact moment you let go of the impossible expectations handed down by history, you finally step out of the illusion. Stop relying on debt to fund your ego and reclaim the quiet, absolute power over your own financial destiny.